Tom Cruise was one of the most impactful humans I've ever met. Um, I did a film with him called American Made, and another situation where I'd booked the job. It was supposed to be 3 or 4 days in Atlanta, and I had one little scene with Cruz, and it turned into a month in Atlanta, uh, almost 3 weeks in South America, another couple weeks in New Orleans, and watching him work on set was amazing because he was kind to everyone. I mean, just to extras, to the crew, to actors with one line. Like you often see like A-list actors who aren't necessarily mean to people, but they're not they don't necessarily go out of their way to be kind to everyone. And I just saw him do that over and over and over. Uh, One day we were shooting at this little airport in Atlanta, and there was an extra there, and he started talking to Cruz about flying. He was a pilot, and Cruz was a pilot, and we're all just kind of staring around, waiting. And finally, the director, Doug Lyman, says, "Tom, we got to get going." And Cruz looks at him and says, "John's got to finish his story first."
Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Talent Agent Talk, where we are bringing you educational lessons and real life stories behind the scenes of TV and film. I'm your host and a talent agent, Jason Lockhart. And today we got a real badass guest, Mark McCullough.
I'm excited to be here.
Dude, I'm so grateful that you drove in all the way from Savannah to do our show.
I was looking forward to it. I'm a big fan of the show. So,
Well, I'm a big fan of yours, man. Like, I have seen you on Instagram and social media and just, IMDb and in movies and TV for years now. And like, you just exude like so much positive energy and like hard work and a sense of like community to be in this industry that it's infectious, like through the internet. It's just wonderful. So I'm very truly grateful to have you.
well, I appreciate you inviting me, and you know, uh, I love what I do. And I think I just hope that everyone can find that thing that makes them passionate and it makes them wake up in the morning excited to get up and pursue the day.
Hell yeah. Well, let's talk about your work in Captain America because in the new one, because it's so freaking good.
Thank you.
And didn't it start as one day?
It started as one day. I booked the role, and it was Navy SEAL team leader, and I was thrilled to book the role. I'd been a huge Marvel Comics fan as a kid, and I'm a big fan of the MCU. So I jumped at the chance. When I got offered the role, I was ecstatic, right? But it was a one day shoot. I showed up, and
Even with this long resume.
yeah, I mean, it was, but it's Marvel, and I was more than happy to be there and do it. And I showed up, and everyone there was just so kind, so inviting, and they made me feel like I was part of the Marvel family. And Anthony Mackie, who plays the new Captain America, number one, that dude is the funniest actor I've ever worked with. Like, the biggest issue I had working with him was not laughing during the start of a take because he would just constantly cut jokes, and so kind. He's a big cigar fan. I'm a big cigar fan, and we were discussing cigars. And later that day, he comes up and gives me his favorite cigar. He's like, "Hey, let me know what you think about this," right? And I'm just a working class actor in Georgia, and it just shows what kind of guy he is.
How was that cigar?
It was phenomenal. Actually, here's the crazy thing, and hopefully this doesn't get him in trouble, but a couple weeks later, I just wrote him on Instagram, and he's got, 2 million, 3 million followers, and just thanked him. Thanked him for being so kind and welcoming, thanked him for the cigar. An hour later, he writes me back. Like, that's the kind of guy he is. But yeah, they just kept bringing me back. This would have been June of 2023 when I first booked it. And yeah, I ended up working on the film for about a year and a half, mostly in Atlanta, and I did a few scenes out in LA.
That's crazy. It's crazy how one day, because the booking was start, work, finish, one day, correct?
Right.
You just never know.
You never know. I got very fortunate, and yeah, it worked out in my favor. And every time I went back, like I said, I mean, it just felt like I was going back home, is the way they made it feel.
I love that. Well, yeah, the little kid in you getting to play.
Absolutely.
I know we were joking around about like for me, like I was so excited when Cobra Kai came to Atlanta because the little kid in me was like, I get to work in the Karate Kid universe. But you know what that's like because you stood toe to toe.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's funny. Like I remember watching the first season of Cobra Kai, and I was just blown away. Like for me, the idea of seeing the story from Johnny's perspective, because as a
Fun.
kid, that was so well done. And I had reached out to my reps. I was like, I don't care if it's one word, I want to be on this show. And I booked a fun little role where I had this standoff with Daniel, and I remember the whole time I'm sitting next to him waiting to go shoot with this big silly grin on my face. And and it's literally the standoff where we're about to fight, and we do the first take. Director calls the cut, and he goes, "Mark, could you not smile?" And I was like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like this is so fun for me." You know what I mean? But to me, that's one of the big, wonderful, amazing things about this career that we choose is we can get into things, be a part of things that the 8-year-old versions of us would have never believed we could be a part of.
Isn't that crazy? And yet here we are.
Yeah, yeah.
I never take it for granted. I get excited numerous hours of the day. Speaking of, so like I grew up a huge Tom Cruise fan, huge. Like and Jerry Maguire is why I'm sitting in this seat.
Oh,
It
nice.
truly is. And I know you got to work with him.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Tom Cruise was one of the most impactful humans I've ever met. I did a film with him called American Made, and another situation where I booked the job. It was supposed to be 3 or 4 days in Atlanta, and I had one little scene with Cruz, and it turned into a month in Atlanta, almost 3 weeks in South America, and another couple weeks in New Orleans, and watching him work on set was amazing because he was kind to everyone. I mean, just to extras, to the crew, to actors with one line. Like you often see like A-list actors who aren't necessarily mean to people, but they don't necessarily go out of their way to be kind to everyone. And I just saw him do that over and over and over. One day we were shooting at this little airport in Atlanta, and there was an extra there, and he started talking to Cruz about flying. He was a pilot, and Cruz was a pilot, and we're all just kind of staring around waiting. And finally, the director, Doug Lyman, says, "Tom, we got to get going." And Cruz looks at him and says, "John's got to finish his story first."
Wow.
Right. So for the rest of that guy's life, like we were all waiting for him to finish his story. And like Tom gave him that, the room to do that. And then another time we were in South America in this jungle in the middle of nowhere. It started raining. And so me and Cruz and the local makeup artist got under a tent. And he looks over and he sees her and goes, "Oh, Maria, I checked out your website last week. Your work is amazing." And she just lit up like someone giving her a $10 million check. And it was just so delightful to see, like he took the time to make that kind of impact on people. So yeah, I will always be appreciative of learning from him that it's so easy to be kind. And that little bit of kindness can go so far. I mean, I remember when I rapped on the movie, or I thought I rapped in Atlanta, they're doing the clapped out. And Cruz was there with, the producers and the director. And he never called me by my real name. He always called me by my character name. And he looks over at the producer and he goes, "Pete's not done. We need Pete in South America." And the producer says, No, he's done. He's not going to South America. So they kind of go back and forth.
Yeah, but Cruz is a producer.
Cruz is a producer. And so I left. I'm like, "Dude, I'm happy to be here, whatever." And like 5 weeks later, the AD calls me and says, "Cruz says if you don't go to South America, he's not going to South America." He says, "Pack your bags." And went down there and had a blast. But yeah, he literally, he just showed me that no matter how successful you become, how much people love what you do, still take the time to be kind to everyone.
And you know what? I bet you were already practicing that. And that's one of the reasons why he wanted you there.
Yeah.
I mean, I know how
think
talented you are, but I bet you he really liked your energy. I started this episode talking about your energy, and I think that like he probably picked up on that, man, and he wanted more of you around. And I think that just goes to show that kindness and professionalism and that boyish charm and wanting to be there is not just infectious to me as an agent on the outside who's like, I want to meet and interview this guy, but Tom Cruise felt it.
Yeah.
Kudos, man.
Well, thank you. I often tell new director or new to me that I'm working with before we start working, I say, I can't promise you I'm going to be the best actor on your set because there's some really phenomenal, amazing actors out there. It's like, but what I can promise you, I will be the least pain in the ass of any actor on your set because that I can control. And I do think that Cruz resonated with the fact that I showed up prepared, ready to work, and said yes. Like I was just easy to work with. I think he respected that.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, I know that you've got a lot under, on your resume and experience, wearing different hats, from filmmaking to being
Hmm.
an educator and whatnot. And I just wonder, like, well, I know from chatting with you previously, like, there's that one story you got that I think is really powerful,
Hmm.
where you played that role and you kind of started to judge it.
Right.
If you want to share some of that, I think our audience could really benefit from hearing.
Sure, sure. I booked a small role in a movie called Free State of Jones with Mahershala Ali. And this was back when he was, I knew him as the really cool dude from House of Cards, right? This was pre him blowing up. And I showed up on set and I see him. I was like, oh my God, this guy I love from House of Cards. Well, I was playing this horrible, vicious racist who says things to him that no white guy ever wants to have to say to a black guy. And the scene ends with me killing him. And I was so judging this character because he was reprehensible. So we start shooting, and I'm so uncomfortable, and I'm stiff, and I'm just in the back of my mind, all I can do is judge. And after a little while, Mahershala takes me to the side, he puts his arm around me, and he says, "Mark, your job is to bring this character to life. Your job is not to judge this character." And he literally just took the weight off my shoulders and allowed me to do what I needed to do, which was make that character as real and truthful and dynamic and compelling as possible, so that the more powerful I can make that bad guy, the more powerful the hero is when they overcome people like me. But it really had such a long-term impact on me because I've built a career not always playing bad guys, but I played a lot of bad guys. And that interaction with him opened my eyes to the fact that as an actor, my job is to bring this character, this role to life in a truthful way, right? You can't be truthful to the character if you're on the outside looking in, judging them. And yeah, it was a phenomenal experience for me. And I remember after this, it's this long, brutal day. We were shooting in the hot sun in the middle of a cotton field right outside of New Orleans. And at the end of the day, we wrapped up. Marshall walked over, gave me a hug, and he whispered in my ear, "You did your job." And it was magical. Yeah, and it kind of sent me off on a path in my career that has been really fun, and it's paid my bills. So, I'm very appreciative of him for that.
That's amazing. And it's also important for history.
Hmm.
There are a lot of bad guys in
Absolutely.
history. And if they're stereotyped as a bad guy, then they're not going to be played by an actor who's living presently in the moment as that actor, saying
Hmm.
those words that need to be heard by audiences so that we can learn from the mistakes of
Right,
history and to portray things accurately.
right, right.
And that's challenging for an actor, but I love that you got to do that
Hmm.
through the lesson of somebody who's also gone on to like be at the Academy Awards. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it is great. I did a film a few years ago playing a Nazi SS officer, and I was working opposite Aaliyah Shawkat. And what's interesting, during the shoot, she never spoke to me, and I understood because she's playing the heroine, and I'm playing this horrible, horrible person. But what I learned from Mahershala allowed me to step into that role and for that character find his motivation without judgment in the moment, right? Obviously, sitting here, I can say the guy
Sure.
was a horrible human being, but to make that character real and not a cardboard cutout, you've got to take away the judgment because human beings don't move through the world judging themselves like that, right? So yeah, it's crazy. I mean, us actors have to get out of our own way, and our job is I always say we're assistant storytellers, right? The writers write the script, the directors bringing their vision to it, and all we're responsible for is taking that character and making him or her alive and real, and just bringing their humanity, even if they're a quote unquote bad guy.
Because they don't necessarily think they're a bad guy. They're moving through the world with some intention.
Absolutely.
It's the way they go about it that we see on the outside is like, that looks bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
you know? Well, I also wanted to like ask what else you got going on. I feel like there's, some exciting things in your future. I don't know what we can talk about, but I know that you've mentioned some stuff. Like, can you say anything?
Sure, I can talk a little bit. Yeah, I've got a couple of acting gigs coming up. That's always fun. but I can't say anything about those just yet. But I developed a TV series that's based on the life of my dad and my best friends, who I grew up with in a trailer park outside of Savannah, Georgia. So we're doing this TV show that's a raw, grounded comedy set in a trailer park in the South. So I am so excited about that. It's funny. I spent about 5 months writing the scripts, and it's a comedy. But numerous times during the writing process, I just found myself tears pouring because it's my family's life, right? So even though I'm hoping people laugh a lot, I hope it touches their heart a bit too.
Yeah, I mean, you write what you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think Scorsese was one of the first to say that, and look at his career.
Right.
Well, very cool. Well, I do have one last question for you. Do you have a dream role?
I don't have a specific dream role. I feel like, to be honest with you, man, I feel like I've just been so fortunate in this career to work with actors that I loved as a kid. Tom Cruise and Nick Cage, just people that the little boy Mark would just like adore. Saw every single movie, and to get to sit opposite them and play make believe has been amazing. And I just love, I love every role that I do, right? I find something magical in every film, every TV show. So, I used to say that I wanted to do, there were two actors I wanted to work with. And unfortunately, it can't happen now, but Philip Seymour Hoffman and Bruce Willis. Like, I love both those guys. But I've learned in this career, I just trust, right? Like, I learned to not, I do hard work. Obviously, I try to stay positive, try to help people. And then I just trust that the right things will come my way, and that's what's happened. So I don't get too stressed out about it, and I definitely I'd like to play. I love the comic book world, and playing the Marvel world has been a blast. I wouldn't mind playing in the DC world, but not in necessarily a specific role.
Oh, man, that's great. Well, I keep talking about your energy, and I feel like there's no better way to close than to compliment how grounded you are. You're so grounded, and yet I can see that excited, boyish charm that you have. But it isn't like out there and hitting me or anyone with too much. It's like it's real, and you're so confident and comfortable in your own skin, and clearly a hard worker that, like, I think you're going to have a much bigger, longer career than you've even already got. And I really hope that anyone watching also learns something just from your energy, man. It's really quite wonderful.
Well, Jason, thank you. That is very, very kind of you to say.
Absolutely. And as a thank you for being here, you win a free car.
Yes. I love this part.
If you want to, reach in there and see what you get.
All right, let's see. All right. Oh, this is nice.
What'd you get?
57 Chevy truck.
Dude, that is your car.
That is sweet. Nice.
That is a badass
Yes.
57 pickup.
Yes. I'm a lover of old hot rods and old cars generally, so this is perfect.
Hell yeah. Well, I hope that brings you many more exciting memories and positive energy as it, lives within your home or whatever you do with it.
Thank you.
Yep. Dude, thanks for being here. Thank you to our audience for tuning in. We love doing this show. Thank you to Jesse Malowski and Get Seen for producing it. And if you would like to be a guest on our show because you got your own cool story with a booking lesson, you can pitch it right to us anytime. It's talentagenttalk@gmail.com. Again, that's talentagenttalk@gmail.com. Mark, thanks, man.
Thank you.